The holy grail of a supplement is that it burns fat and puts on muscle.
Yeah.
And that's what this does.
Yeah.
So imagine being able to do it via increasing uncoupling protein and increasing brown adipose tissue activation and improving the healthier liver.
Yeah.
Why would you not take this stuff?
Why would you not? That's right.
All right, you know, we're focusing a bit back to the body, but it's great for the brain as well.
Yeah. It's like the golden ticket too.
Yeah.
I mean, it's such an rated supplement for the large part. People just don't know all these things that it can do.
I know.
Yeah.
And remember, this was published last 6 months. So this is probably new information to a lot of people out there.
Yeah, it is.
Welcome to the ATP Project. You're with your hosts, Steve and Nicole.
Hey, how are you?
Great. I'm really good today.
That's
you want to know why?
Why?
Because today we're talking about one of my favourite subs.
Yeah.
And it's probably one of your favourite subs.
It is now.
It is now.
I mean, it always has been, but even more so now we've dived into the research and found a whole lot of really interesting things on it. Yeah.
So today we're going to be talking about creatine. Now, before you switch off, people, all these papers that I've got here that you can't see if you're listening here, they're all from the last 6 months.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many studies coming out.
Yeah. Well, it's one of the most studied supplements, really, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And they're finding out more and more amazing things that creatine
Absolutely.
can do.
Now, I'll give the bit of a boring background and we can sort of dive into the research. Creatine is naturally in the body. It's naturally in our diet. We can, if you eat a lot of meat, you get it out of your meat. But if you're a vegan, then you better listen to this podcast very, 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 very carefully because you're not getting in your diet. Now, you know, look, for those who are listening, we're not going to be talking a lot about the muscular benefits of creatine. There is a meta-analysis in here, a recent one, but we're mainly talking about other aspects of creatine.
Yeah, there's so many positive effects that creatine has on the body outside of anything to do with muscles, which is what we really wanted to dive into because, you know, who hasn't heard about the benefits of creatine for muscle and strength and all that sort of thing. So, but there is a plethora of information and benefits out there for creatine outside of that, which we're going to talk about today.
It's amazing because you know, we did a podcast on creatine about a year ago or whatever it is. I wouldn't have a clue, maybe 6 to 12 months ago. So we talked mainly about muscles then. But since then, in the last 6 months, there's been numerous studies on creatine and how it benefits the body and other aspects of the body. So it's really, really quite incredible. And you've got a summary here and we've got papers here to go through.
Yeah.
But what's your personal experience with creatine? Like you were a bodybuilder, body sculptor.
Body sculptor?
Isn't that, I think of a body sculptor as the statue of David and someone chiseling out, you know, the statue of David, you know, the naked dude.
No, there's a female version. That's where I came from. There's I was the sculptor. No, it wasn't really. No, because I get a lot of people say to me, what were you going to say?
No, there is a famous statue of a naked female.
Oh, is there?
What's her name?
I don't know.
She hasn't got any arms.
Not boxing.
God, it's stupid. I can't remember her name.
I don't know.
But someone's going to go, it's such and such.
Oh, I don't know.
Someone DeMilo. I can't remember.
I don't know.
Anyway.
But she had no arms, and I don't think she's
Google naked chick.
with no arms. Yeah, see what comes up.
Yeah, it'll be somebody.
That might be on the dark web.
You know, there's that, you know, David with the bait and tackle hanging out.
No, well, the reason I say sculptor is because everyone thinks bodybuilder. That's, did you get huge and masculine? No, I didn't get huge and muscular. There are female bodybuilders that are amazing, but no, that wasn't me. I was one step down, so still a bit more feminine, but yes, still have to develop good muscle.
Still got good muscle tone.
Yeah, I try.
Oh, your arms are...
Well, maybe it's all the creatine I'm having, Steve.
Love to get... See, we're going off track. You just brought us back on track.
Pulled you back on track again.
I love it. Okay.
That's what I'm here for.
Well, let's screw your muscles. Let's see what else creatine can do, okay?
Yeah.
So, all right, we know from the neck down it does something. What about the neck up? Can you tell me something that creatine does for your neck up, anything like that? Now, what I love about creatine is that it's the gift that never stops giving. Now, let's talk about your brain.
Yes.
Not your brain. I'm not pointing
my
at your
brain specifically.
But let's say you are really stressed out, okay? And there's a plethora of things you can take for stress. There's benzodiazepines, if you want those sort of drugs. There's, all sorts of herbs, which is another major topic. But there's also creatine for stress. I mean, it's incredible. There's one study here published July 14 2023. Now,
That's pretty recent.
Today is the 25th or 6th, I can't remember. And so it's like 10 days later. And what they did with these rats is now we're doing rat studies here because you can't stress humans ethically. So, but you can stress rats, whatever, who gives a shit about rats. So what they did with these Windsor rats was they stressed them out. And then they test their memory. And what they found that if people took, or the rats took creatine or were given creatine, their memory was protected against stress. Because you know when you're stressed and you can't remember? You've ever watched Who Wants to Be a Millionaire?
Oh, yeah, I used to want to be in that show.
Really?
Yeah, I did.
You'd be good at it.
I think I'd be good at it. I'm good at trivia. A bit of a trivia
Bit of a trivia. Yeah, I couldn't think of the naked chick statue. I know David, the naked guy. What does that say about me?
Yeah, a bit, but we won't go there.
Yeah, we won't go there. I am married to a real woman, you know.
A person with ovaries.
That's right, a person with ovaries. That's right. We've got to be politically correct. Now we're a vulva owner, I think was the latest one.
Yeah, that's right.
It's just, this is weird, isn't it?
Well, yes.
That's all right.
It's weird.
That's right.
Yes.
So in this study, what they did was they gave these poor rats and stressed them out and all that sort of thing, and they had to get them to memorise a way through a maze. And under the stress conditions, the ones that we give a creatine helped their brains get through the stressful maze. Now, so you know, people are stressed, everyone's stressed these days, and creatine will help your brain cope with stressful situations.
Yeah.
I love that.
It's amazing. Well, I mean, there's a study done and they gave people a mathematical equation, a couple of mathematical equations to do, and that even dropped the creatine in their brain. So if that can drop the creatine, imagine how much depletion you can have in the brain if you're chronically stressed. Yeah. So that just goes to show.
It's horrific, isn't it? And you know, as a body sculptor, creatine was something you took for your muscles, but no one thought about it for your brain.
No.
I never thought about it for my brain. You know, but what we know is that there's other studies out there now published in the Frontiers of Neuroscience, which shows that creatine is also now being used as an anticonvulsant agent.
Which is huge, isn't it, really? We're talking about things like epilepsy and that type of thing. That's a massive development.
Well, it's a massive development because anticonvulsant medicine, you've got to remember back when I was born in the 1920s, there were no medications or anything. So you used to put people on the ketogenic diet.
Yeah. Yes.
And you produce ketones and very low sugar, and it very much helped with refractory epilepsy. So that's all great and good, and you can go on a ketogenic diet if you want. But if you're a kid, creatine is safe for children because they eat it in their diet from meats and that sort of thing. But imagine being able to, is a naturally occurring organic compound which helps with any sort of convulsions. So, I mean, that's remarkable as far as I'm concerned.
It is. That's huge development. And there's people out there that possibly that could even, could help with that, have epilepsy and things like that. Could that be something that they could find could be helpful?
Yeah. I mean, could help, can't hurt.
Well, that's right.
It's a good, pretty safe supplement, of course.
Yeah.
So you know, it's another one of those recent studies that came out to show great benefits. Now, I know you've got a great topic here, and you love this topic, and I do too. It's just histamine.
Histamine, yes. Yeah, this was a really
Tell
cool
us about
one.
histamine.
So, well, I mean, histamine, we won't go into too much detail about it, but histamine, obviously, we produce it in our body. We need it for different situations, for, to keep us awake and for digestion, that type of thing. Some people can have issues breaking down histamines, and they can end up with something called histamine intolerance, and that can cause a whole nother selection of symptoms and problems and things like that can go into some quite significant problems. But I have found some studies on creatine that actually can help indirectly with histamine breakdown.
Amazing, isn't it?
How amazing is that?
Yeah, because you can take an antihistamine, and there's many different classes of antihistamines. There's one developed in the 60s called the class 1s, but they cross the blood-brain barrier. So now those antihistamines are actually used as a sleeping tablet.
Yes.
So if you take them, they'll cause massive drowsiness. Creatine, as we've said, is good for the brain. So it breaks down histamine as well as being good for the brain.
Yeah.
It won't put you to sleep.
Yeah. No.
I had a bunch of creatine this morning because I take it throughout the day because I was in the kitchen and it was free. So I just drank some because, I rarely drink water when I'm here
I noticed that, Steve. I noticed you was drinking a shake.
It's always
some type
something.
of something. Yeah, no, because you're getting all the goodies out of the cupboard.
Exactly. That's exactly what I'm doing.
All the ATP goodies.
It is. They're there. And if there's someone's backed into a pallet, which we always hope happens, there's some damaged bottles that go in there or something. Someone dropped something or, they do a trial on some protein bars like they did today. I took some of those. Should I say that on camera? I should they stole. They were in the kitchen to be taken.
Yes.
So I had afternoon tea a little while ago and, of course, had a protein bar, which is great. But, so I have a creatine drink and it really does help me, peps my brain up. And when I do things like this, and we recorded another podcast this morning, I've been in meetings and everything and my brain feels good. I mean, not bad for an old fart like me.
No, that's right. You generally float on out of here with all the stuff you've been kind of glow on their way out the door with all the stuff.
I just hope I don't get tested on the way home with something will turn up positive.
Come up for sure. Yes.
Creatine completely natural in your body. So before we get even if you're whatever the WADA tested.
Yes.
Were you WADA tested?
No, I wasn't. No, I wasn't pro.
You weren't a pro?
I wasn't a pro, no.
I mean a professional athlete.
I wasn't one of them either. Not a professional athlete. I mean, I wasn't a pro. I didn't have a pro card. No, I never went that far. No. Jeez, my body let me down before then.
Your body let you down.
Yeah, it did.
Speaking of your body, I hope you remind me mentioning this, that you do suffer some histamine intolerance.
I do suffer histamine intolerance. Recently, actually. I think longer term I've had histamine issues, but can I say from COVID? I got COVID last year, and ever since COVID I've had been having significant histamine issues, which have now gone under control. But so I have always had a little bit of issues with histamines. So I have an issue breaking down histamines, just with my genetics. So it's always been a little bit of a problem, but COVID has made it a lot worse. Yeah. So I have only recently got back onto creatine, actually, a little bit before we were deciding to do this podcast. But, so just to see if it helps. I'm taking it for other things as well, but to see if it helps with the histamines as well. But we'll see. So it is indirectly works on histamines, and that is because it's very good for methylation.
Methylation. What the hell is methylation?
Oh, wow, methylation. So methylation can be quite a complex thing to talk about, but essentially, basically, it helps with our detoxification pathways, our neurotransmitter production, hormones, all of that sort of thing, has a lot of really important functions within the body. If we have poor methylation, then we can have a lot of different problems with detoxification, mental health issues, hormonal imbalances, all of that sort of thing can be part of that. And how common is it to have poor methylation? I mean, we've all heard of the MTHFR polymorphism that went around. We won't talk about how else we can say that. Yeah. But that was big, that was the thing, wasn't it? In the last 5 years or so, everyone's getting tested for the MTHFR to see if they've got the polymorphism, because that impacts your methylation. Yep. So, but there's a lot of other things that can impact our methylation. Chronic stress can cause it to be underfunctioning, inflammation, so many different things can impact our methylation. So the interesting thing is, creatine is involved in methylation. So, but it's more upstream. So we talk about your B12s and your folates and things like that we give. So, but creatine actually is something that we can look at to improve our methylation, instead of having to rely on our methyl donors like our B12s and things like that a lot of people can't tolerate, whether it's B2 sensitivities, histamine intolerance, people can struggle with B12, those types of things. We can't give those nutrients. So we look more upstream to creatine, was that sort of at the top end of that whole cycle. And if we can look at increasing our creatine levels, then that's going to help our methylation cycle overall. It's going to take a bit of a burden off the downstream sort of pathways, and we have better effect with methylation. So this is a pretty interesting one, so up to 40% of all the methyl groups that we generate throughout the methylation cycle need creatine, and up to 70%. Whoa. So that's, if we're looking at up to 70% of our methyl donors come from creatine, then that just shows how much creatine we need in the body. And if our body is having trouble with methylation, we're using a lot of creatine, and then that's going to not leave a lot of methyl donors over to go into other pathways that they're needed. So if we can then bring in some creatine and help that cycle, take the burden off that process, that leaves things a little bit more open for that downstream effect and help with that methylation. So, lots of methylation issues that can be really beneficial for.
Amazing. I've got a story about methylation to do with my mother.
Huh?
My mother's 80 and she's doing well now, but about 5 years ago she had a heart attack.
Did she?
Mild one.
Yeah.
Survived it. Went to hospital. All this maybe 10 years ago now. It's quite a while ago. And the cholesterol's fine, everything's fine, except for one chemical in her body that was high.
Oh, I bet I can guess.
What is it?
Homocysteine.
Correct. So since then it was super high. And so she might have had that genetic polymorphism of methyl tetrahydrofolate reductase or the MTHFR gene. But regardless, they didn't know what to do with that. So I put her on a complex to reduce the homocysteine and it dropped it from in the 20s down to the 10 or something.
Wow.
Dramatically.
Yeah.
And she hasn't had a repeat incident, as she calls it.
Yes.
But she goes, that incident I had. She hates saying the heart attack and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But you did bring up an interesting thing about since COVID-19. Now, have you heard of a condition called long COVID?
Yes. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I've had long COVID. I have long COVID.
I wasn't going to mention that because I don't like talking about your health.
No, well, hey, I'm it's good because if I, as a naturopath, if I've gone through it, then can it be helpful?
Well, you had a bad run with COVID, didn't you?
I did have a bad run, yes. I had quite severe effect from COVID, yes.
God.
Yeah, I was knocked out for about 7 weeks from COVID.
Wow, so that's long COVID.
Well, 7 weeks initially and then ongoing for a couple of months, yeah.
Geez, I was knocked out for 0 time with my COVID.
Oh, thanks, Steve, for bringing that.
No, long COVID's serious.
It is very serious.
And there's a paper that's just been, or it's going to be released in July to September this year, and the title reads, and I'll let you explain this one, Reduced Tissue Creatine Levels in Patients with Long COVID-19. It's a cross-sectional study. So what they simply did in this trial was that anyone who's got long COVID, they measure their creatine levels and they're all low. What does that tell you?
Wow, what does that tell you?
If creatine is involved in energy and brain and muscle and all this, it's correlation doesn't mean causation.
That's
so
right.
it doesn't mean, but what's the harm in taking some creatine monohydrate? It'll help you at the gym and get big muscles and all that stuff that we're not going to really talk a lot about today. I've got one study in here about that. Yeah. This is very impressive. But you can see that this is incredible that you could try that and see how that goes in the body.
Yeah.
Well,
that comes back to even methylation, the inflammation and that's caused from the virus that's going to impact your methylation, inflammation, that type of thing. We know creatine obviously helps with that cycle. It actually is anti-inflammatory as well. It's antioxidant, so that's going to definitely help to improve some of the symptoms that the virus are.
Now what they did with this was they measured it using a proton magnetic resonance spectroscopy, which in other words you can measure any tissues directly. Okay, so they measured the brain. They measured 3 regions of the brain across the white and grey matter, the 2 matters in the brain. All 3 were low in creatine.
Isn't that interesting?
In the brain.
In the brain, yep. The brain. So many benefits to creatine in the brain. So many.
It's just amazing. Again, now this paper is going to be published in the Journal of Postgraduate Medicine, so it's quite an advanced journal. But isn't that incredible that the brain's got to do with it? Absolutely.
Well, we use a lot of energy. The brain uses, so it's about 2% of our body weight, essentially, our brain, but it uses 20% of the energy in our body. So it's a very energy, thirsty organ. Greedy organ. So, and it can produce its own creatine, the brain. But it's very hard it can produce it itself, and the blood-brain barrier does have the potential to transport it over, but it's quite difficult for that process. So, if we're depleting creatine in the brain from high stress, from that sort of thing, then,
or if you've had COVID.
Wouldn't make not sense to.
Everyone's had COVID pretty much.
Pretty much everyone has, yeah.
It's everywhere. It's quite incredible.
Yeah.
So let's go on with this brain theme. Now, there's a paper published in 2023, April to June, and the title of this one, and I'd love you to speak about this, is Neuroprotection and Therapeutic Implications of Creatine Supplementation for Brain Injury Complications.
Wow.
So, I mean, it's found to be beneficial in people with traumatic brain injury.
Yeah.
Now, my wife's a nurse at the hospital and she often looks after people with traumatic brain injury. In fact, there's a neurotrauma ward where all the people there have had a brain or spine injury.
Wow.
And they're all in there. Now, if I was big boss of the hospital, I'd be spiking everyone's drink with creatine.
Yeah, definitely.
Why not?
Why not? It can't hurt, as you said, can't hurt. Definitely not.
I'd just be shoving in there. I mean, because there's papers, literal papers that show this is beneficial. So, I mean, it can't really, it's a really good, medicine to try for people.
Well, this is really interesting that I found.
Oh, yeah.
So there is those that have an inborn inability to make creatine. It's a fairly rare conditions, but they exist. So they if they can't produce their own creatine, you'd think that the main presentation would be muscle issues because 95% of creatine is in the muscle, right?
Correct, yeah.
But the main presentation, they did have muscle issues, but the main presentation were developmental delays, cognitive dysfunction, seizures, intellectual disability. So they were the main presentations from lack of creatine rather than anything muscular. Yeah. And oral supplementation did build their levels in their brain back up. Obviously didn't reverse, irreversible conditions. But what does that tell you about how much the brain relies on creatine?
Oh, it's really, really incredible. I mean, because it is a high-energy organ, even when you sleep, your brain is still active. So it's really quite important that you really keep creatine high in the body.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's really good for the brain and that sort of thing. And there's another paper here that sort of, again, it goes into the beneficial of a good one to read. And it's by Scott Forbes, who's a great guy on creatine. He's a bodybuilder, etc. It says, heads up for creatine supplementation, its potential applications for brain health and function. And, I mean, this paper talks about all the benefits for the brain. And it's remarkable.
Yeah.
It is absolutely remarkable.
Well, you look at things like Alzheimer's and, those neurodegenerative conditions.
Yep.
And they've shown that there's a good level of evidence to show that these conditions compromise production and concentration of creatine in the brain.
Yep.
So that's another issue. That a connection there.
Yep.
Even those with the APOE44.
Apolipoprotein E4, that's a genetic marker for Alzheimer's, heart disease, all that's a terrible gene to have.
And that was shown that those people can have lower levels of creatine in the brain. So could that be something that someone that maybe has that potential could make sure they have good levels of creatine? Could that help down the track? Maybe.
See, this goes back to our genetic testing thing. Do your test for that sort of thing. Now, I was always in the no camp because I think, well, you've got to look after yourself whether you've got the 4 gene or not.
Yeah.
But in this case, you really, really should because you can do something about it. You can just go on a low-dose creatine for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. You're already eating it anyway in your diet unless you're one of those vegans.
Well, we will talk about those that may have creatine deficiency and the reasons why, so we can go into that. But, yes,
absolutely.
Definitely amazing for people that may be predisposed to those neurodegenerative conditions.
Yeah.
Could something like creatine really be something simple to do that may have a profound effect down the track?
It gets better because it's also been found creatine is great for anyone who's got sleep deprivation, especially for the brain.
Yeah, that's me, sleep deprivation.
You?
Yeah.
You got up, you slept in this morning, didn't you?
Oh, yeah, I slept in till 3:45 this morning.
Lined you up for that one, didn't I?
I did, that's why
what happens when the alarm goes up at 3:45? You just go,
apart from all the swear words and oh, my God, I can't believe it's that time. Yeah. Well, I don't generally get up at that time anymore. It's only on my certain days, and I come down to the big smoke that I have to get up early and drive.
Jeez, I know.
Yes, but there were times back in the day when I was up at 3:30, 4 to train, so I had significant sleep deprivation then.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
I mean, and you're not alone.
No.
I was talking to one of the sales guys, and he was up at 3 this morning. He does 2 hours at the gym. And then after work, and I won't mention his name because I haven't got permission, but he walks for 20 kilometres.
Wow.
And he struggles with his sleep because he does. Now, creatine also is great for, muscular dystrophy, but also depression and anxiety. Does anyone know anyone with depression and anxiety?
Oh, gee, let me think. Yes.
About 68% of the population have that. So absolutely incredible. Now, the thing about creatine is that it's not sex specific.
No.
So you can take it if you're a guy or a girl, because women or men have brains as well.
Yeah, okay, I'll believe you on that one.
Not your exes, but...
No. My exes definitely don't have brains. No.
That's funny, isn't it? Look,
yes.
No, absolutely. So men, women can take this. It's not a supplement that needs to be sex. It's not like a testosterone booster. It's not a steroid.
No, and I think a lot of women maybe have been scared of creatine in the past for that reason. But that's
building muscle.
To be honest, women should definitely, even more so than men maybe in some cases, take creatine because it is harder for them to build muscle. And then we look at postmenopausal women who lose muscle quite significantly, can do. So creatine is very important for that population. So for women, I think a lot more women should probably be looking at creatine supplementation.
Oh, absolutely.
Not for for the muscle factor, and also for everything we're talking about today.
And the brain, the methylation, of course.
Yeah, methylation's a huge one. That was I found that really fascinating. Yeah, and game changing for a lot of people that struggle in that area.
Look, true. I mean, it is great for fat loss as well.
Yes. So.
This was kind of new to me. I didn't know the mechanism of this, but basically they in this is biochemistry journal. It says creatine ameliorates high fat diet induced obesity by regulation of lipolysis or fat breaking down in brown adipose tissue and the liver. So it acts on the liver beneficially, and the breakdown of fat. So it's absolutely incredible. So what it does is it activates the brown adipose tissue or the BAT. Yeah, which increases thermogenesis. Yeah. So that's absolutely incredible. And also it enhances the expression of uncoupling protein 1. So now I better explain what that is. Yeah. Okay, so let's say you're in a boat. Okay, let's say you're sailing the Whitsundays and you're cruising around in your boat there, you get a nice suntan, you're floating on, then you've got a hole in the boat. Yeah, I know. You can't get to land. So the only way you can survive is to keep the water out of the boat. Now, that's going to require a lot of energy, isn't it? It is. Yeah. So that's what uncoupling protein does. It allows protons to leak into the cell. Then the body actively pumps it out. You might think, well, that's stupid. What does that do? It expends energy. Energy in the term of fat. Yeah. So if you can activate uncoupling protein, then you have got the secret for fat loss.
That's right. How is that?
Have you heard of 2,4-nitrophenol?
I have.
Diphenol, yeah. That's an agent that was used in the 1920s to keep women slim. Yeah. Not men, because men didn't need it. No. Because all about, isn't it disgusting how women were, like if you were overweight, that was like,
that was the worst.
The worst thing. But this thing increased uncoupling protein, and it was probably the most effective agent for fat loss ever invented. Yeah. Now, the only unfortunate side effect is it killed a few people.
It's a little bit unfortunate.
Slightly.
For the people that...
Slight side effect. But apart from dying, it was great for fat loss.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So...
Well, either way, you win, don't you? If you're dead, you can lose weight in.
You lose weight, you're right. But the thing about uncoupling protein is that if you can, the holy grail of a supplement is that it burns fat and puts on muscle. Yeah. And that's what this does. Yeah. So imagine being able to do it via increasing uncoupling protein and increasing brown adipose tissue activation and improving the healthier liver. Yeah. Why would you not take this stuff?
Why would you not? That's right.
All right, we're focusing a bit back to the body, but it's great for the brain as well. Yeah. Great for muscle mass now too. So this is, again, a new study, and it's published in... Oh, I've got to go back a page, sorry. It's published... Oh, that was in biochemistry, that's right, the paper I was talking about. So it also... Creatine supplementation also improves insulin sensitivity.
I know, how good is that?
That is amazing.
Yeah.
Also uncoupling protein, all that sort of stuff. But the great thing about it is, imagine that, improving insulin sensitivity. So what that means is your body doesn't need as much insulin.
That's right.
Now, insulin puts on fat basically because it puts sugar into fat cells and sugar into cells. So it also stops you burning fat. Yep. So you get rid of the insulin, you can access fat stores. You at the same time of taking this one supplement, you upregulate uncoupling protein. Yep. And activate brown adipose tissue activation. So you burn fat. Now, brown adipose tissue is rich in mitochondria.
Yep.
That's what gives it the brown thing.
Yes.
And then you've got beige fat, and then you've got white fat.
Yeah.
And white fat's the hard one.
White fat's the bad one. No, we don't.
It's the bad one.
Yeah.
No one wants white fat.
No.
And it's very difficult to move white fat too, really.
Yeah.
One way you can do it is by uncoupling protein. And this does that.
Yeah, how amazing. It's like the golden ticket too.
Yeah.
I mean, it's such an rated supplement for the large part, where people just don't know all these things that it can do.
I know.
Yeah.
And remember, this was published last 6 months. So this is probably new information to a lot of people out there.
Yeah, it is. Well, what's another thing that, not particularly women, but men and women that maybe worry about is their skin health.
Skin health? Why do we care about our skin health?
Well, I mean, we all want to look good, don't we?
We
as
do.
we get old, Steve-os, as we might find out at some point.
Why are you looking at me when you're saying that?
Oh, no,
looking
no.
old?
No, not at all. I was just talking about us in our mid to late 40s.
I wish I was mid to late 40s.
Mid to late 40s. I'm going to say mid to late 40s until I turn 50, which is this year.
Yeah. I love it how you go mid to late.
Mid to late.
Can I say early 50s? Because that sounds better than 54.
Yeah. Well, you're not mid 50s yet.
Nah.
Steve.
No,
so you're early 50s and I'm mid to late 40s. Because I'm not 50 for another few
I love how
months.
we're trying to spin this.
Yeah, I know.
But I want to look like I'm in my 40s.
Well, that's what you do, Steve.
Yeah, of course I do.
Yeah.
Look,
But
gorgeous.
But it does actually have
That's only if you're listening. If you're watching this, they're going to go, what? But because most people listen to our podcast, so they can't see me.
That's true.
I can
We do
tell
have a
them.
YouTube channel, peoples, if you ever want to check
don't
him
tell
out.
them that. No, don't check the YouTube channel out. I can keep lying and saying I'm not going bald, I'm not going grey.
No, you're not,
and
not at all.
I look gorgeous.
You
I haven't got any wrinkles at all.
You don't. Well, you really don't, Steve, to be honest, for a 54-year-old.
I cheat.
Do you?
Yeah, I cheat. I have collagen.
Oh, do you? You mean you live a healthy lifestyle?
Yeah.
Oh, God forbid.
And I don't smoke.
Well, there you go.
But
That's going to
I
help.
am married.
You
so that's
exercise.
pretty stressful.
See, that's going to bring it back down again. Yeah. Tips the balance back in that negative.
Yeah. It does, doesn't it?
Yeah. No. But creatine can actually be really helpful for skin as well.
I want to know about this.
Well, they have shown that it can protect against oxidative and UV damage.
Wow. UV is ultraviolet light.
Ultraviolet, right?
Sun,
so people out in the sunshine. So obviously it's not going to help someone that's been out there for 50 years and is a bit burnt to a crisp.
Again, you look at me when you say that.
Well, no, because I used to be, should I say this on camera? I was a bit of a sun worshipper when I was young.
Yeah.
I was terrible. I've always been tanned, except for now. I haven't been tanned. But no, I was terrible in the sun. So I'm just lucky that I don't have any major issues or freckles or anything like that.
But I was a lifeguard for many years. So
were you, Steve?
Yeah.
You should come out with some things I never knew.
That's probably expired now, but I had my bronze medallion, which means, qualified lifeguard. That was when I was in my 20s.
Yeah.
I got my bronze when I was 20 and my ARC, Advanced Resuscitation Certificate.
Wow.
Yeah, so I was a surf lifesaver.
What, not in Victoria?
In Victoria.
Oh, yeah. Whereabouts was that?
Half Moon Bay Lifesaving Club.
Half Moon Bay. Oh, yeah.
So that was 30, shit.
A long time ago.
34 years ago.
Yeah.
Because I remember I had to postpone my bronze medallion because that's when I got my ankylosing spondylitis.
Oh.
But I got my ARC, my Advanced Resuscitation Certificate, before my bronze. So I was a sort of like a resusciter before I got my bronze, because the bronze you had to run, swim and run. And do that. So, so I got my bronze then. So, then was lifeguard. It was great.
Oh, well, there you go.
Yeah.
It got out in the sun. Yeah,
now, there is an elephant in the room here. We have to talk about muscle hypertrophy, which is muscle growth. Hypo meaning low, hyper meaning high.
Yep.
Now, again...
Sorry, just click the camera.
Did you?
Camera is just
did I wobble then, did I?
No, I did. Did me a dirty look. It's only your camera, Steve. That's okay.
Yeah,
My
so I all of a sudden went... Looked like I had a seizure of some description. And guess what's good for seizure?
Creatine.
There you go. Now, look, there was another randomised control trial meta-analysis published on muscle growth. And yes, to answer your question, muscle growth is improved when you have creatine. And so that's published in Nutrients, April 2023. Not very big shock horror to anyone listening there.
No.
But I've got a new way to take creatine.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
Tell me.
I'm going to read the title of the paper
because
it's a bit strange, this one. This is published in Brain Residential Bulletin. And it says, intranasal creatine administration increases brain creatine level, improves maze performance in rats.
Wow.
So
you're snorting creatine.
They snorted creatine.
Wow.
Just like the White House, but they... Well, look, there was cocaine found in the White House. I don't know who took it, but
don't know.
There was some. This is the healthy white powder. By
That's
the way.
right.
This is not that. So
Oh,
I mean,
that's
no, look, it's ridiculous, and no one's going to snort creatine. We don't recommend anyone snort
No,
creatine.
definitely don't do that.
But down the track, this raises a bigger picture about naso delivery of nutrients, and it's already in drugs now.
Well, they're doing it more in natural medicine now as well. Mold, environmental toxins. They use a lot of nasal sprays.
Yep. And
Put the nutrients in them.
The old Ayurvedic medicine, we used to snort the oils up your nose in the olden days when I was trained in that way. It's not done anymore. But look, going forward, I mean, intranasal delivery of agents may become a thing in the future. We know it's. I'll give you an example. There's a drug called sumatriptan, which was one of the first triptans for migraine medication, and you take 50 to 100 milligrams of this stuff orally, 100 milligrams is standard dose, and it's poorly absorbed. If you take an intranasal squirt of it, it's 6 milligrams injection or 12 milligrams intranasally, it's absorbed almost 10 times better.
Wow.
So, what's going to happen going forward? Now, again, don't snort creatine, take it orally because that's where it's been tested.
Yes.
I'm going to say it twice. But, this could be a new way to get, natural medicines. It certainly works in rats. Does it mean to work in humans? Doesn't mean anything. Rats lie. But it's just something we need to keep an eye on in the literature because there may be something coming forward with that. So
that's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
Wow.
I know. But I've got another one for you for creatine. It's also a potent antioxidant.
It is a potent antioxidant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like, it just never ends, this stuff, does it?
And I think, look, I don't have the study in front of me, but I did when we were doing some research, was showing that it is even more potent than glutathione as an antioxidant, which is glutathione is one of the master antioxidants in the body. So that's a big call as well. If it has even more benefit than glutathione, that's huge.
Well, yeah, it increases glutathione in the body, which is the way it works. So absolutely incredible. This study was published in Frontiers in Public Health, May 2023. And what they did was they gave non-athletes, older men and women, that's me, not you.
That's right.
To take creatine or placebo control. And they measured the oxidative status of these people, which are things like 8-OHDG, which is a long chemical name called 8-hydroxydeoxyguanase, which is a long one, and MDA and a few others. And what they found was there was very, very much increased antioxidant defences just on creatine, which is quite incredible again.
Yeah.
And they gave 0.1 grams per kilogram. So it's high dose.
Yeah.
So for me, that'd be a lot. There'd be 7 grams of it a day.
Yeah.
But 7.7 grams a day.
Yeah. I mean, look, some people are taking 20 grams a day.
Oh,
so, we can talk about doses, but, that's not an uncommon thing.
We don't need to, but imagine being an antioxidant as well.
I know. How amazing is that? Anti-inflammatory, antioxidant. The list keeps growing. What about anti-aging, Steve?
Oh, yeah, I need that. Tell me about that.
Wow, this one's a good one.
Yeah.
So creatine may reduce the accumulation of the aging pigment lipofuscin. Have you heard of lipofuscin?
Yeah, that's in the lipozymes.
Yeah, so
it's
lipofuscin.
A waste product, isn't it?
It is a yellow-brown pigment that accumulates in the lysosomes of cells. So lysosomes are small organelles within cells that are responsible for breaking down and recycling cellular waste. Yep. And as our cells age, they become less efficient at processing and disposing of these wastes, leading to a build-up of these lipofuscin and lysosomes. So, so creatine has been found to significantly lower the accumulation of lipofuscin in the brain of aging mice. So as a result, creatine-fed mice, and we've got the study we can put up if we need to. As a result, creatine-fed mice lived an average of 9% longer than control animals, which equates to about 7 years for a human.
I need 7 years.
Yeah, I need 7 years too.
But isn't that's remarkable?
Yeah.
Because you got to remember the brown accumulation in cells. We used to call it the shit from cells.
Yeah.
I mean, I know it's a terrible word, but this is what it cleans out. So it's a detoxifying agent.
Yeah.
For this, it's a cellular detoxifier, which increases your lifespan.
Yeah.
How remarkable.
I know, isn't that amazing?
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
Now, I've got a bit of a radical one here, is they're using, because let's say you develop a cancer. The trick with cancer is that you've got to be able to deliver the medicine to the cancer cells and not to the rest of the cells.
Yeah.
Okay? So with creatine helps deliver or shuttle the medicines to cancer cells.
Wow.
So, I mean, isn't that incredible? Now, this is only early stages, only in vitro, which means in a test tube. But, of course, we know orally it's safe. So, I mean, it also, there was another study I didn't put in here which showed that it helps reduce cachexia in cancer. So people who get muscle wastage during cancer, obviously it'll help with that because it helps with all sorts of muscles. But it also may help down the future deliver medicines to cancer cells.
Wow, isn't that amazing?
So, I mean, you know, and this is something this is in a paper called OncoTarget, so Cancer Target. Isn't that incredible?
Yeah.
So, you know,
I mean, that's very similar to it can help in depression. It can help with treatment-resistant depression because actually how it works as an adjunct to some of the SSRIs, SNRIs, that type of thing. So it's very similar, obviously the same type of effect and can increase their effectiveness where they may not have been working before.
Exactly. So it can help you medicines that may not, you know, you may need less medicine. And therefore less side effects because chemotherapy like cisplatin is a terrible side effect.
Awful.
You know, there's another one, 5-FU, which sounds like a rude thing, but it's not. It's honestly the name of the drug. Shit, be careful. Get emails about that. So look, it's really quite incredible.
Yeah.
Now, in endurance athletes, creatine is good for them, but some of the studies are mixed in it because it really is with high impact. And what they did in this study, and this is in athletes again, Scott Forbes. So, you know, you look creatine and there's a picture of him beside it. But this paper is titled Creatine Supplementation and Endurance Performance Surges and Sprints to Win the Race. Because, you know, when you're doing an endurance race, like you run marathons all the time.
Oh, yeah, daily.
Yeah, daily.
Well, I probably shouldn't boast, maybe weekly.
Weekly, yeah. It's published in the Journal of International Sports, Social Sports Nutrition, and it's going to be published in December 2023.
Oh, there you go.
So how's that for up to date?
That is very up to date.
Now, what they found basically was, okay, when you're surging, that's when your creatine is required. So in an endurance race, you don't just run to the, well, you know, when I was doing a marathon, you don't run to the same, you know, you surge at the end. You pick it up to try and smash everyone else. And, you know, and that's the idea. So in all these events, it helps with that surge at the end of the race.
Wow.
So, you know, your creatine levels are maintained, and then it just, towards the surge at the end, when you're just about to finish the race, you surge, and that gives you the kick to do it. So when people say, oh, you don't take creatine for, you know, long distance, that sort of thing, you can, because it helps with your brain and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But this is remarkable because at the end of a race, when you're surging, this will be great. Now, when I train, and I swim train, believe it or not, I haven't got the big back or got nothing to show for it, but except I get a suntan.
Well, you do?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know, Steve, you're doing all right for 54?
You could lie and say I'm 34.
Sorry, I meant 34.
Then I wouldn't be doing
34. I meant 34.
Yeah, 34.
Yeah, that's right.
34.
Yeah.
But, you know, when I swim at the pools, you get your bang for buck. I take the creatine. And when you're towards the end of my, you know, K.5 or 2Ks, whatever I'm swimming, I try and swim really fast. I don't because I'm not a good swimmer. But I exhaust myself because why get out of the pool feeling not exhausted? You may as well smash it at the end.
That's right.
You know, go to exhaustion. And so this really helps with that. So in a race, but also in your training.
Yes.
Because you can up the intensity.
That's right.
And so, I mean, with creatine, well, let's just try and summarise it because it's bloody difficult to.
Well, I mean, can we maybe first look at who could be more prone to deficiency of creatine?
Yes. Who is it?
Yeah. So what would be the first one that you would think of that
bloody
could be
vegans.
Vegans.
Yeah.
Vegans, those on plant-based diets can be quite commonly depleted in creatine. So we can make our own creatine and they definitely can make their own creatine. But you have to look at all the other factors involved in that. have they got high stress, or they have to have absorption issues? They have these other issues where they're going to be making creatine, but is it going to be enough for them? So most of the time we make half the creatine we use, and then we get the rest from diet or supplementation. So, but it obviously creatine is only found in flesh foods. Yep. So people on plant-based diets won't be getting that in. So if they're having, say we go back to methylation, if they're having methylation issues and then they're having to make all this creatine as well because they're not getting it through the diet, what's going to happen there with their methylation? What's going to happen with other things? So, and interestingly, in clinic, and this is not picking on people who are plant-based, but I do see a lot of...
No, I won't. I'm sorry. I apologise.
People on plant-based diets who have methylation issues, very common to have methylation issues. So so that's going to be... That's one of the biggest populations that can be deficient in creatine. Obviously, the elderly is another one. One, they don't get enough protein and they don't absorb it.
That's important.
Yeah, really important. I mean, as people get older, they think that they need less protein, but they actually need more.
Yeah.
So, and you'd be surprised, people would be surprised how much protein we actually need as we age compared to when we're younger. So do you want me to give you pretty much the figure on that?
Go for it.
Around about 4 grams per kilo.
Wow.
Yeah, as we're getting up into our 50s, 60s, 70s, can be up to that much, up to that high. So, so I mean, people are, going hard on protein when we're younger, but when we're older, that's when we really need to focus on it. And then what are the other implications around that? Digestive insufficiency, very common as we get older, low stomach acid and enzyme production. That's going to impede our breakdown of our proteins and extracting all these amino acids and the creatines. So that's another group that has problems with maybe creatine deficiency, that they can't break it down, they can't break their food down very well. Those with poor methylation, obviously, that's another one. Cannabis users is another one. Yeah, so anyone out there who's a pretty chronic cannabis user. So cannabis inhibits the enzyme methionine adenylyl transferase, which is involved in making SAMe, which is a universal methyl donor.
It's adenylyl methionine for those who are nerds.
So that's so cannabis users might need to look at their increasing their creatine intake if they are regularly using it.
Well,
no judgment.
No judgment.
No. Hepatocellular inflammation.
So
that's another
inflamed
group of people.
liver.
Yeah, inflamed liver. They can have problems. From alcohol abuse, chronic infections, bile duct damage, that sort of thing. Yeah. And those with high stress, which is pretty much everyone, isn't it? Yeah.
That's everyone.
Everyone. Yeah.
Everyone's got high stress.
Yeah. So everyone could be walking around. A lot of people could be walking around depleted with creatine.
Well, I'm not depleted because I had 5 grams today. That's about the standard dose, 3 to 5 grams.
That's right. I had my 5 grams as well this morning.
It's amazing because women benefits, particularly women, for the muscle mass, the skin, antioxidants, brain, all that sort of stuff. That's men as well.
Yeah.
Of course it's good for your athletes, but forget that for a sec.
Yeah.
Detoxification, cellular detoxification, methylation, brain health. Creatine knows no bounds, I don't think.
No.
And the fact that it's now used for delivery drugs in cancer cells and all sorts of other weird stuff shows the benefit of this stuff. Burns fat, builds muscle, antioxidant, anti-inflammatory.
Mental health,
Mental health, anxiety, depression.
Yeah.
Remarkable nutrient.
Yeah.
So let's get into it.
So when we're talking about types of creatine or purity, what would be the best that you would suggest as far as pure creatine?
All right. I'm going to take you back to Martin Luther King.
Wow, take me back.
Yeah, because, I'm old enough to remember
I
this.
wasn't alive then, but I do know who he is.
I don't think I was there. It's 1957. But have you heard of things that all men are created equal?
Yes.
Blah, 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 blah. But creatine's not.
No, all creatine is not created equal.
Because creatine, when it sits there in the moisture of the atmosphere, breaks down to another chemical called creatinine, which if you went to the doctor and get a blood test, it measures your kidney function. So it's not a good chemical to have.
No.
But there is a type of creatine called Creapure, which is extremely low in creatinine. So it's almost pure creatinine.
99.9999%.
That's it. It's super duper high. So when you're having, there's a couple of things about creatine. First one is always get the Creapure.
Yeah, always.
But the second one is don't leave your creatine in water too long.
Yes. That is a good one that some people wouldn't think of.
No. See, like Beck makes up, my wife, Beck makes up a drink beforehand and she puts all food things for the gym the next morning. But I tell her to make sure she puts a creatine in the morning because she's on creatine too. it's like, it really helps through the workout. So make sure you look for Crea Pure.
Definitely. Yeah.
Should be on the label.
Yeah. It's relatively easy to find. There's not a lot of brands that have it, but yeah, look for it, because that would be the only one I would recommend. It's the Crea Pure. Yeah.
Because, it's you don't want creatinine in the body. It can cause kidney damage.
That's right.
So be careful of that. And also, have your creatine fresh. I've seen cans of drink that are pre-packaged with creatine.
Yes, I have too.
I won't mention the brand name.
No,
I won't mention the brand name. But it's on the label. I don't know why they put it on the label. It's probably they're just hoping people don't. Well, I don't know what they think.
Well, I think a lot of people don't know that you shouldn't be leaving it to sit. So
probably, yeah. Interesting, eh?
It is.
Is there anything else about creatine we haven't mentioned?
Look, I don't know. We've gone through a lot, haven't we? It does go on for a big time.
Yeah, probably because we've sort of run out of time for this. But
yeah.
COVID-19, of course, there's paper. If
any inflammatory conditions.
Any inflammatory conditions.
Yeah.
Any neurologic. So consider creatine as your daily supplementation for your general health. Athletes, they're onto it.
Yeah.
The general health, I think, is the important message.
Yeah, 100%. I will take it every day, and I will be from now on, especially after doing all this research.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's just for longevity, for anti-aging, if nothing else, and those type of things. So, yeah,
7 years.
like we said at the start, can't hurt. And it's one of the safest supplements, it's highly researched, so you can't really overdose on it. I mean, we wouldn't be taking mega doses, but I would recommend it to everybody.
Good stuff. Well, that's about all we've got time for today. So thanks, Nic.
Thanks, Steve.
We'll see you all next week.
We will.
See
Bye.
ya.